This week's Parsha is Parshas Pinchas. Parshas Pinchas has an extensive list of what animals are permissible to eat. What are the kosher animals? It's important to note that from the beginning of creation, God commanded Adam that we are the kings, so to say, of creation. We are to rule over all animal and vegetation. In fact, in Bereshis, it goes so far to say that we should treat animals as vegetation. Why? Because all of these things that God created for us to utilize. The entire creation was created for our purposes, for instruments, for our use. That use is supposed to be to further God's will on this earth, to do Hashem's will. Since we alone possess the ability to exercise our will freely, we alone bear the responsibility of the purpose of creation. And the creatures that surround us, the creations that surround us, are here to serve our purposes. Yaakov, when he laid down to rest, surrounded himself by 12 rocks. Those rocks, as he slept, argued with each other, upon whom Yaakov would rest his head. Eventually, miraculously, they all combined into one rock. Again, this idea that all things, even inanimate things, are here to serve our purposes. Optimally, those purposes should be for spiritual ends, or eventual spiritual ends, for God's will to be performed on this planet. Now, because of this, we have to reflect upon a certain prohibition in the Torah. The Torah prohibits us from inflicting pain upon animals. So now, if we're going to consider all creations as here just to serve our needs, what purpose is there in this prohibition? There's no such thing as animal rights. There's no such thing as an animal's right to be free from pain. So why do we have to refrain from inflicting pain upon animals? The answer is really obvious, is that if we were to act so rashly, inflicting pain without reason upon animals, we would not be acting in a merciful fashion. And one of the things that God expects out of us is that we act the way He would act. And of course, God is merciful. This is an important reflection upon the prohibition against inflicting pain upon animals, is that it's not the fact that the animal has a right to be free from pain. It's our duty not to perform actions which are lacking in mercifulness. This week's parsha also talks about the danger of intoxicants, of beverages and so on that inebriate a person. The danger is that if a person consumes them, he may not be able to distinguish, in the language of the verse, between what is impure and pure. In fact, the Torah says that this is the reason why Nadav and Avihu, the two sons of Aaron, perished when they tried to perform a service in the temple. The mistake that they made, and for which they got the death penalty, was only caused because of the fact that they consumed alcoholic beverages. So the question is like this. The Torah clearly states that inebriating beverages, intoxicants, cause a person to lack the ability to distinguish between that which is pure and impure, with that which is holy and that which is not holy. But at the same time, we see that when we perform the Havdalah service, the service which functions as the means to distinguish between Shabbos, that which is holy, and that which is not holy, the weekday, the best way to perform that service is on a cup of wine. Why would we pick a cup of wine, the one thing, the one category of beverage that causes a person not to be able to distinguish in the service of Havdalah, which purposes to distinguish? Have a good Shabbos.